Welcome to All Things Moore County, Moore County's weekly radio show, highlighting the many facets of the Sandhills. That includes real estate, lifestyles, community, and neighborhood. And now, from Four Properties, here's your host, Bill Sahadi.
Good morning. Welcome to the talk show, All Things Moore County. And Dorothy, we're just about ready to say welcome to September.
Yeah.
Welcome to back to school.
Yes, thank goodness.
Leaves are starting to, I see a few dropping, not a lot, but as we turn our attention into the fall season, last year we had a show with Karen Wicker, who is the executive director of Drug Free Moore County.
Yes, I remember that show.
Well, we spoke about a month ago when we were trying to set up another show today because it's a very important topic, and September is National Recovery Month. Karen is here, and she's being joined today by Reuben Burney, who was on the show, Reuben, when Karen was in last year. You're affiliated with the Pinehurst Comprehensive Treatment Center.
Yes.
And we're going to be talking a lot about that as well today. And Dan Purdy is here, who has been a past guest on the show. Dan comes on, and it's always about the country club, Pinehurst, but you're here to lend us some advice and some assistance today. September, Karen, good morning, by the way.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm great.
September is a very important month for Drug Free Moore County.
Right.
There are a lot of things going on. If you want to just give us Cliff Notes version as to why the timing and why now.
Okay. Well, September is Recovery Month, and nationally, and also here in Moore County. We actually just had the county commissioners, the Moore County commissioners, do the proclamation for September for National Recovery Month. We like to celebrate Recovery Month because substance abuse and addiction is such a huge issue, and if you live under a rock, you know, most people know that addiction is not going away, and matter of fact, it's even growing even more of an epidemic. And what we like to focus on is the recovery piece, to let people know that people do get well. There are some obstacles to that, and we can talk about that later, but we want people to understand and be aware of the disease of addiction, because it is a disease. And Drug Free Moore County, our main goal is to help people understand addiction and also rally around those that are in recovery, so that more people can learn about it. And we're also going to have a big event September 23rd, but I didn't know if you want me to talk about that now or not. Well,
There's going to be a Run for Recovery. It's a
Right.
5K on the 23rd of September at 8:30 in the morning. We are going to come back and talk about it, but it's important to think outside the box and try to raise funds and make people aware at the same time.
Right. This is the first time Drug Free Moore County has really done any actual fundraising.
Right.
But we feel like this particular effort, and I can tell you a little bit more about that later, is something that we wanted to come out of that box and do some fundraising. We've gotten some funds through a couple little grants here and there to do some educational programs. We go into the local jail and do a recovery program for women there, the women inmates in Carthage, and we also do some programming, some educational programming for teachers and staff at the schools to help them to understand addiction, and also give them some resources to support those that are either going through addiction or living in homes with addiction. So we've got little streams of funding here and there, but we really want it to expand out and really reach out to the communities, and that's what this Run for Recovery is all about.
Sometimes people hear the word addiction, and they right away go to a specific thing that they associate with addiction. But it's not just one type of addiction. There are many different types of addictions.
Right.
But I think people have these compartmentalized, preconceived notions about what it is. But tell me about the addictions that you're talking about and the recoveries that accompany them.
Well, you hear more about the opiates, which are
Sure
pain
do.
pills,
Mhm.
and a lot of that is not necessarily just young people. That starts a lot of times with older folks. Our senior citizens are being affected about that when they have a surgery and giving more pain pills than they need, and they keep taking it and they go, okay, this is, I need some more. And if you have that addictive gene, you'll become addicted to it. Also, there's alcoholism, and you know, there's different types of drugs out there, and in any kind of addiction. I mean, well, there's gambling and other things as well, but mostly what we concentrate is on substance use disorder, which is abusing a substance, not using it for what it's prescribed for or named for.
Is there an addictive gene? Is that science? Is that Ruben? I know when it gets technical, I turn to you.
Well, I'm not an expert, most technical expert on it, but they say that there is a genetic or hereditary component to addiction.
Okay.
I find oftentimes, like we talk about a substance, oftentimes they found that it goes beyond just the substance because there's gambling, sexual compulsivity.
Sure.
So they know it goes beyond the substance. The substance is the way it manifests itself. But often they talk about like addiction. They say it's a disease of the reward system, and it affects the impulsivity and what have you. So you know, oftentimes we talk about the behavior or the substance, which is the substance that manifests the disease, but it goes to the brain and
Right. It's a brain disease.
Right. It's really a brain disease. Yes.
You know, a couple of about a year and a half or so ago, I had a minor operation, and they gave me a prescription for oxycodone. And I'll tell you, I slept like a baby, and I would take it, and I would literally and I thought to myself, what is the deal? How can people get addicted? So I couldn't sleep. I was uncomfortable. It was a back surgery, and I'd take the oxycodone, and I would lay there, and I could feel my eyes getting heavy, and all of a sudden things sort of lightened up just a little bit. And my imagination started running around, and I said, I'm going to dream, and I felt pretty good. And I couldn't wait to go to bed the next night. And I said, so I did it the next night. So they were very careful about the dosages and the number of pills. And then I thought, well, I only have one left. This is a true story. And I said, maybe I'll save it. Right? Sure. And I thought, wow, and then I had a hard time sleeping for a couple of nights after I ran out of the last pill. But then I got back on my schedule.
Right.
And I thought to myself, wow, there was an opening. I got a little glimpse. It was part pleasurable.
Yes.
No good, huh?
Yeah. Well, and opiates will change your brain. I mean, that's the big piece of it.
Is that right?
And now, thank goodness they just passed the STOP Act, which was part of North Carolina legislation that I guess I can't remember for sure, but I think this is right, that with a minor surgery you can only have 5 pain pills. And then with something more extensive, it's a little bit more, but they are really decreasing what doctors or surgeons can prescribe now.
Right.
And that's a big piece of legislation. That was something Josh Stein, our Attorney General, North Carolina Attorney General, helped put into place. So it's, used to you get a tooth pulled and you got 13 pills or 10 pills and like, oh, I'm still hurting. Okay, can I have 10 more? And then, like you said, that feeling that you were getting, some people can fight it and some people can't. So that's a part of that disease. So, yeah. And I guess that's right.
Sure,
Yeah.
Addictions, there are all different types of addictions. I mean, there are work addictions.
Yes.
I mean, workaholics and stuff. Right, Dorothy? Yeah, she's looking at me. Better that you have a constructive addiction than, because the difference between one addiction and another it's a very fine line, isn't it? As long as people can keep it constructive, but not a lot of people can.
Yeah.
Is that
True.
accurate?
Yes.
I had a conversation with a 14-year-old boy today. Today's his birthday, and he's going to start his freshman year in high school. And I went over to see him and wish him a happy birthday. And he starts his first day of high school next Monday. And he was a little apprehensive. And I said, Alex, this is the time that you start to make choices, good choices, bad choices, about a lot of different things. And this is a kid with great instincts and great parents. But that's one of the first tests where kids get put out into the world socially, and they start to, how disciplined are they? So a lot of people who wind up with problems of addictions, they start as teenagers.
Well, there's always concern about that because research shows their brain is still forming
until they're 25.
Right. Mm-hmm. And research shows the earlier a person starts abusing like alcohol or other substances, there's a potential to manifest the disease of addiction.
Okay.
Yes. That's why there's always concern about when you go into the schools and educating them, starting at that early age as well.
How much educating do you do in the schools?
Well, as far as Drug Free Moore County, right now we've just been doing more with the parents, helping parents understand what addiction is, what to look for, what some of the paraphernalia is, what are some resources that are available, what are maybe some questions that they need to ask their children, or even have that conversation, just like you were saying. You might be tempted, or because what's so crazy is it's so available. I mean, we've talked to kids in high school, some of the local high schools, and I asked, well, if you wanted such and such, would you know where to get it? Oh, sure. Mm-hmm. And these are kids that don't even use it. Mm-hmm. And so we work with the parents, and we also were finding as we work with the parents, a lot of the teachers were having concerns that the children were coming to school like not having breakfast, maybe in the same clothes they were in the day before, simply because there's addiction in their home. And so we developed a program called the Elephant in the Room, because that's basically what it is. The child doesn't want to talk about that mommy slept this morning and I couldn't get her up, or dad or whatever. And a lot of the older siblings are having to take on that role of a parent. And that's becoming an increasing thing. It's not necessarily just the young people being tempted by it. It's their adult parents that are indulging, either in alcoholism, because, alcohol still is the number one. The United States consumes more alcohol than any other country in the world, and it's still the number one addictive substance. So we've been trying to educate. We are getting ready to do all the principals in the schools in the fall, and then offer the training for the school staffs. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of what the approach we're taking this time. Instead of going directly to the youth, we're trying to work with the home situation and with the school staff.
I know you want to focus on recovery today. Mm-hmm. I went to your Facebook page, mm-hmm. and I just saw something this morning, and I just took my breath away. What a great word picture. It said, in 2016, more people died from substance abuse than we lost people in the Vietnam War.
All Americans in the Vietnam War, the total war. Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's a showstopper right there for people. If they have to quantify, that's crazy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so recovery becomes the most important piece of that puzzle.
Right.
To bring that's nationally, correct?
That's nationally. Yeah, and that's the big piece of it. It's not just people in addiction. It's people are dying.
Yeah.
And it's becoming increasing because of the type of drugs that are available, and sometimes it's because of the legislation. And when we can't get the prescription pill, then you're going to turn to heroin, and then sometimes the heroin is laced with fentanyl or whatever. and overdose is a huge piece of it. But yes, recovery, we want to be on the positive end of it, but we've got to save some lives too along the way.
I saw
Ruben?
On the news on WRAL, they had a special, and it talked about in North Carolina, I think in 2015, 1,100 deaths due to the opioid epidemic, overdose. Yeah. And that's not national, that's just in North Carolina. Those are the most recent, like 2015. I'm sure they've increased.
It's rising.
And just last week, the Aberdeen Times printed an article. They're great, by the way. I mean, there was a guy who was, I guess, taken in for doctor shopping. Yeah. Can you talk about what doctor shopping is just a little bit? Can we not do that?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Am I?
Well, I've seen that's a part of, like with, say, opiate addiction. Oftentimes you'll find different behaviors, and one of them is patients doctor shopping.
Yeah.
I see now, for example, when I go to the doctor calls my prescription in, whereas in the past you could have availability of prescriptions, and people will oftentimes even steal the doctor's pads and prescription pads and stuff.
Right. Yeah. Right now I think it's more the fraudulent,
yes.
And that's what Detective Stubbs from the Sheriff's Department does a lot of work with that. The doctor shopping, a lot of times people would go to the doctor and say, "Oh, my back's hurting," and get 10 Percocets or whatever. Then they go to another doctor. But there is a system in place that was part of that STOP Act too, was it's making it mandatory for primary physicians to put in there when they prescribe an opiate or Schedule 4 or 5 into the system so that it would show up to the next doctor. So a lot of that is, but some people will go all the way to Florida. I mean, they'll go everywhere. But now the fraudulent prescriptions of, like you said, getting the prescription pad has become an issue too, and counterfeit prescriptions. So, and that's something the pharmacists have to be very aware of and vigilant with that as well.
I've noticed in getting prescriptions from time to time, the insurance companies are also clamping down. Where you have to sign for everything. Everything is much more airtight than it was 10 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
I see that there is a trickle down, that there are trying to put some stopgaps in effect. Let's come back in the second set. We're going to be talking today all about celebrating and supporting recovery. We're speaking with Executive Director Karen Wicker of Drug Free Moore County, along with Ruben Birney. And we're going to speak to Dan Purdy here shortly. We didn't mean to ignore you the first set. We'll be right back.
Nothing ever slows her down, and a message goes about our house. In the middle of our street, our house. In the middle of our house.
Welcome back to our second part of our show, talking with Drug Free Moore County and celebrating and supporting recovery. Just a note, September 23rd at 8:30 in the morning, there will be a run for recovery. It's a 5K trail fun run walk and an obstacle run. I think it's the first time you've been doing this as a fundraiser, and it's going to be at the National Athletic Village over on Air Tool Drive.
It's over there near where the UPS hub is. Yeah. A lot of people are not familiar with National Athletic Village, so we were glad we found it, and they've been very cooperative. So it's a good way to even check out a new resource in your county. So. Well,
the reason for the run, I just would like to read what you've written. Be a part of National Recovery Month by joining the Voices of Recovery in Drug Free Moore County in celebration of those who are living in recovery from drug and alcohol addiction, and help to raise awareness of the obstacles that stand in the way of recovery, which we're going to talk about today. Proceeds will go towards the creation of a community recovery center in Moore County.
Right.
And that begs the question, why don't more people get help?
Because there's not that much.
Not a centralized facility.
Right. Well, and the community recovery centers are just basically a place where people that are beginning their journey of recovery, that it's a safe place for them to come, we'll have peer-to-peer counselors who are volunteers and just help them if they're having some triggers that day or they're looking for a job or whatever. But as far as treatment facilities, there's really not
Ribbon
any.
saying no.
In-house, yeah, it's
That
usually
dog won't
outpatient,
hunt.
yeah.
Right.
And especially nothing much in the northern end of the county.
Yes,
There's a
right.
few AA, but other than that, we're very, and that's everywhere. I mean, that's the huge problem is resources.
One of the things you mentioned why more people don't get help probably needs more attention. Fear of being judged. Or losing a job or family.
Right.
The fear of being judged is huge, isn't it?
Yeah, because everybody thinks you're weak,
Right.
that you chose to do this.
Right.
Even they don't, if someone has cancer and, the neighbors down the street bring you a casserole,
More socially
they're praying
acceptable.
for you, everybody's giving you a ride to get your treatments, and if you say, I have a problem with opiates at this point, and I'm having trouble, keeping my job. Well, that's your problem. It's and I had a call just today from a mother who was looking for a support group, and she said it had taken her 2 weeks to make the phone call to call our office just to ask about it. And so, she said, I just want to be around people that understand what I'm talking about and not feel ashamed.
Yeah. But there's a shame for some people who get into it. Dan, we didn't want you just to be a guest here observing things. We want to get you involved. Dan Purdy, who's actually has been on the show a couple of times and has been a great guest. We talked a little bit about opioid addiction. There's another piece to it as well with recovery, and that shifts to alcoholism, which Karen has mentioned. And there's people read a lot about it today. I mean, AA is a very vibrant and a very strong organization here in Moore County. Recovery, I've heard that expression. If you quit drinking, if you're an alcoholic, you're still an alcoholic. Is that true?
I don't want to find out otherwise. So
Let's don't experiment with that one yet.
yeah, that's a good question, though, Bill. I guess I've been in recovery for a few years now, but all I can share is my experience. I know a lot of people just kind of get to where they're getting to. They have to go down their own journey with it. It looks a little bit different for everybody.
Right.
I know personally for me, a lot of the things we already discussed, feeling judged, fear of man, fear of fitting in, being shamed or guilted by having this problem with not being able to stop drinking, that weighed on me for a while, and it definitely factored into me taking so long probably to get to a point where I felt like I needed to get some help.
Right.
And what I meant by my earlier comment was that I knew what it took for me to come in, and I don't want to have to find out what it would take for me to get back in if I didn't maintain my recovery and do the things I need to do to stay sober at this time.
Do you think there's more of a stigma, social stigma, attached to people who have had problems with alcohol than perhaps with opiate, with harder drugs? Just because it seems somewhere prevalent.
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't. Maybe.
Yeah.
I think that my history is primarily with drinking. I actually had a kind of experience you described, Bill. I had my wisdom teeth out.
Yeah.
And the doctor prescribed me Vicodin, so I'd sit around and play Tiger Woods golf all afternoon, and took it as prescribed, and then I was really getting anxious when it was running out because I really liked that feeling I had. Now, whatever reason, I didn't go down that road with prescription pills, but I probably easily could have. But I drank a lot, and I think it's drinking, especially in our country, it seems to be it's a glamorized thing. It's marketed to. It's very glamorous in movies, and it's almost a thing that I guess is made to be considered, I don't know, attractive. That kind of sounds weird, but
cool.
There's a lot of budgeting dollars put into the alcohol business. So as we see at the Super Bowl and other things, so I think it is something that maybe, I guess, has that stigma to it because of that.
But you know, in the alcohol piece of the puzzle, there is a tremendous support network under AA that does that exist in other areas of for recovery if it's non-alcoholic? I mean, there's a group. I mean, and there's strength in numbers because you help each other, right?
For sure.
Is that just indigenous to alcohol, or does it go into other areas of like drug abuse?
Well, of course, there's NAs, which is Narcotics Anonymous, which is very similar to AA. I mean, it's the same 12-step program. But I know I've always heard, and I know, Reuben, you may answer this, but most of the people that go into treatment for opiates, they're recommended to go into AA and not the NA. So I'm not real sure. But I think being a part of an AA group, you do have a fellowship of some sort. And I don't know, as far as other support groups for people who are in recovery from opiates, at this point, there's that fellowship yet. Right. Is that...
When I lived in New York, the clinic I worked at, it was a counselor that was very active in like Methadone Anonymous. I find in this area that hasn't really, I haven't heard of any meetings, so I don't even think that's taken off at all.
Sure.
Yes. Yeah. But like we encourage our patients to go to NA or AA, and there's concerns. Sometimes they talk about, well, whether or not they're being judged, but we always say a drug is a drug is a drug, and oftentimes that you can associate the feelings, for as you might not say, well, I didn't use pills or whatever, but there's still a dynamic going on, a component of addiction there.
Right.
Yeah.
AA is the tenets of Alcoholics Anonymous goes back to the 30s or the 40s, and the steps to recovery. The 12-step program?
Yes.
So that's good for people starting in business. It's good for people with addictions. It has not. The tenets are remarkable, and they keep you on point and consistent. But people think, it's AA, but those tenets are. Everybody should read them.
Yeah, there's some great principles in there, Bill, and you can apply them to just different areas of life, like you said.
Right.
Exactly.
And you're correct. AA's been around for about 80 plus years now.
Is that right?
So it is a well-established fellowship, and I'm fortunate because of that. And but like Reuben kind of hinted to, there's some areas, and it depends on the region you're in, where there may be a stronger following with NA than there is AA. Here we're fortunate in Moore County. We have a pretty strong AA following. You can find a meeting virtually anywhere around here throughout the week, and our website, moorecountyaa.org. That's where you want to go if you're looking up schedules for local meetings within our 5 counties, which is Moore, Scotland, Lee, Richmond, and Hope County. So you can find.
What is that website again?
It's moorecountyaa.org.
Easy enough. That's intuitive, which I like. Yeah. In Moore County today, Reuben, I'll ask you this. What are the different types of treatments that are available in Moore County right now?
Well, in Moore County, of course, there's Pinehurst Comprehensive Treatment Center. We're a medication-assisted treatment facility. There's the hospital has like a intensive outpatient program there, a behavioral health unit. Oftentimes I refer people well known as like Samaritan Colony in Rockingham. So there's different types of treatment. There are a lot of intensive outpatient programs maybe in this area.
Yeah, there's not really any in-house treatment program here in Moore County. Samaritan Colony is a 28-day program just for males at this point in Richmond County.
Right, it's not in
And they do real good, and then you go into a halfway house, so it's sort of like a process, which is awesome, and they've had real good success. There is a hint that they might be a Samaritan Colony-like program for women getting ready to open up in the Moore County area, but not seen that yet. There is at Casa Works in Crystal Lake. That's for mothers and young children, and it's an in-house program. And they try to get them jobs and that type of thing. But most time it's usually counseling and outpatient, because medicated assisted treatment is outpatient, and then of course support groups. But a lot of times when folks are looking for treatment, they're looking for that 90-day, 1 year, 2 year program, which are mostly in other counties or other states, and they might be a Medicaid paid, or they might be private pay. So that can always be a stumbling block for some families, because they go, well, I can't leave my family for 2 years and, whatever. So again, and you don't know what the right treatment is for you until maybe you're already in that treatment program, and then you go, well, wait a minute, this isn't going to work for me. So finding the right treatment, finding treatment at all.
Sometimes I refer people like this. I'm running all these facilities, moving here about 5 years ago, and the Sandhill Center, the LME, oftentimes I'll contact them, and they're a great resource.
They will refer out, and they also have the funds that help folks that don't have any money, the indigent. And then they refer them usually to Daymart. And Daymart will try to get counseling for them, but they do not. They offer just some counseling and some groups at their facility. They're not an in-house treatment facility. Some counties they do. The Daymarks do. So it just depends on what county you're in.
So the hopes that you have for the Community Recovery Center in Moore County
it's just basically to help enhance kind of what's already going on. Like the Community Recovery Center, if someone's involved in AA, could still come by there to get, like if they're having some triggers that day or just needing someone to talk to, they could come by for that support, for that friendly face. And the same way with the Medicaid Assisted Program, or if they've come out of a 90-day program and they're just coming back home, coming back to their same environment, but they're looking for a job or wanting to take a parenting class or whatever. So, we're going to kind of start small, but they do have some in Raleigh and in some other urban towns that have done very good successfully with providing that just a little bit more extra support, not taking over what other recovery programs are doing, but just adding another piece to that system.
And if people want to increase their awareness about all you're talking about, the Run for Recovery 5K is September the 23rd, 8:30 in the morning at the National Athletic Village on Air Tool Drive in Southern Pines. And proceeds will go towards the creation of a community recovery center in Moore County. We'll be back for the third set in just a minute. Thank you.
Thank you.
In the middle of our street, our house. In the middle of our house, it has a crowd. There's always something happening. House, it has a crowd. There's always something happening, and it's usually quite loud.
Welcome back to our final set. We're talking all about drug-free Moore County today with Karen Wicker, the executive director. September 23rd, the Run for Recovery is being held at the National Athletic Village. It's a fundraiser. It starts at 8:30 in the morning. Registration begins at 7:30. You can get advance tickets. They're $15. $100 per four-person team for the obstacle run.
Right.
What is the obstacle?
Oh my gosh! That's one thing about the National Athletic Village. It's already set up.
Okay.
And a lot of folks that do those Ironman runs or whatever, train out there. And so they have walls, they have tires, and they'll have some trainers there that will help. Like if you don't feel comfortable climbing up the wall and over, they'll say, well, just climb up and come back down. And but it's awesome. So if people are really fit and want to have a team, come on out. And one kind of the reason why we wanted an obstacle course, part of that is that it kind of represents what people go through with recovery. It's like going up a wall, coming back down, falling back down this way, or you have to pick up a heavy tire. I mean, it's a very good comparison to going through recovery is that obstacle course of just getting through that journey.
2 steps forward, 1 step back.
Right, and it takes a team.
and it takes a team.
Yeah.
Participants will, there'll be event T-shirts, refreshments, a chance to win some prizes. And it all benefits Drug-Free Moore County.
Yes. Which we are a nonprofit, and it is a tax deduction.
And it is difficult in Moore County sometimes to stand up on a bandbox and scream at the top of your lungs so people become aware, because it's almost like dialing for dollars. There's so many competing things going on, but anyone that has been touched in a family with any sort of an addiction certainly would tell you how important the work that you do is, and why the recovery piece that you consider is so important. The statistic we mentioned before about 2016, the number of deaths nationally exceeding the Vietnam War. That just that put it all into perspective.
Right.
But you're committed to the recovery portion of this, aren't you?
Right. It helps everybody. Yeah. It helps our communities. It helps our neighborhoods. It helps our families. It helps our schools. 90% of most of the inmates in our local detention center as well as in our prisons have had some sort of connection to substance use disorder or addiction. And a lot of times their charges may not reflect that, but it's because they may have gotten involved with the wrong crowd and gotten involved with stealing because they needed money for their drugs or whatever. And it costs more to keep someone in prison than it does to put them into recovery. So, and I think the trend is changing more that way, but it's going to take a while. But recovery helps everybody. And 1 out of 7 people are affected by addiction, and so if you're not in that 1 out of 7, it still affects you.
It affects the economy.
It does.
It affects the tax base.
Right.
If people are not participating in our local economy and they're not being viable and they're not being supporting their family and paying their taxes, that more people off the tax roll.
Yeah. We have more grandmothers raising grandchildren.
Yeah.
We have children being born to addictive mothers, and so that's higher health costs, higher insurance costs, and of course the foster system. Social services just recently added 2 more social workers to help cover some of these what's happening with these families. So it affects everybody, and if you don't think it affects you, you haven't looked hard enough.
Moore County is a very giving county, and it supports people all the time. But honestly, sometimes some of this stuff takes your breath away, because there's so many people that are not as well off as we are, and we look around, and it's. My mom used to always say, I'll never forget, and I used to roll my eyes when she said it. She used to say, everybody has a cross to bear.
Right.
And you've heard that expression. I don't know what she was talking about, but the older you get and the more you look around at the entire playing field, you go, oh my gosh. So then you say to yourself, with all these people with issues and things going on, how can you just, it's hard to just focus on enjoying the moment, and you still want to enjoy the moments,
right.
But there are so many people out there that are worse off than we are.
Yeah.
So I mean, the work that you do is good. You just have to keep singing until you get enough people in the audience who will listen.
Right. We just get hoarse sometimes, yes, standing on that bandwagon. But But recovery helps everybody.
Sure.
And we just need more resources. We need more people to be aware of this disease and not be ashamed, and to come out and say, hey, I'm all about recovery and let's do something about it. We have had great sponsorship. I can't believe, because we have like the platinum and the silver and the gold. I don't have that on the flyer, but platinum's like 500 and the gold is 200 and silver is 150. We have, I mean, all I'm getting is the platinum sponsorship.
Are you?
Yeah, so
Wonderful.
you would not, and I have 3 phone calls I've got to return after this of people wanting to help sponsor this. So obviously it's touched some people and some families, so we're very pleased with that.
Yeah, and going back to the, and the more people are aware of this, maybe it will help lessen the stigma.
Yes.
But let's go back to talking about the stigma just a little bit, Ruben. You're working on trying to building a peer-to-peer mentoring counseling program?
Oh, no, that's...
Well, that's really Drug Free Moore County.
Yes. Okay, I'm sorry.
But it would be a support to Medicaid assisted programs like Pinehurst Comprehensive Treatment Center. And basically, it's peer-to-peer counselors are people that are in recovery, or either they are family members of someone in recovery. And there is a 40-hour training program through UNC School of Social Work. And they would be taking that course and be certified to be a peer-to-peer counselor. And we are looking for funds, and that's what part of our fundraiser is for. And I already have like a handful of people that said, I want to be a peer-to-peer counselor. And we're hoping to have stipends to help them, with their travel to wherever, they need to go or whatever, and just to give them a little money to be able to help support, because that's all a part of recovery too, is giving back in the service, because that's the 12th step is being in service. Sharing,
paying it forward.
Right. And so the peer-to-peer counselors will be critical in helping people understand, oh, I've been there and I'm here for you. Yeah. And again, that's that support system and that fellowship.
I think especially with teenagers, I've done work in the high schools. Everything is peer driven. Oftentimes, that teenage years, it's focused around their peers. So that is important as well.
Yeah, we get some youth peer to peers. That would be awesome. Sure. Yeah.
Isn't there another element to the drug problem too, as it relates to social media and the way people connect? And the way they communicate, and the way they get their self-esteem or don't get their self-esteem. The way this is not the 1980s or 1970s where it was always eyeball to eyeball.
Right.
There's got to be some connection there that what's cool. When you're in middle school or high school, you're so influenced by everybody else, and information is so readily available.
Sure. I see that
feedback.
On social media that I joined Facebook back in February, and I said I didn't want to get caught up in that. Like people get caught. How many likes I get? And I said, it's nice if you get a likes, but I see they say, well, would you like this person? Would you type amen, or would you say? And I'm like, how about your own, self-esteem? Like Facebook likes won't give me my self-esteem.
Right. And then people can create the image they want on Facebook.
Yes.
So you'd be surprised. Maybe their life's not exactly like that. So it's like it's almost creating a false persona of who they are.
Right. Yeah.
This morning I get up early in the morning. I have a cup of coffee. I turn on my computer. I go to Facebook. And so today Facebook, it screamed at me. After the TV last night and the political stuff.
Oh, gosh.
So, opinions from the left, opinions from the right, boom, boom. And the noise level, I wanted to sit there in peace. I just turned it off.
Yeah.
Right, yes.
Yeah, some days you just, it's enough.
It's a different way that kids communicate today, and I don't know what the connection is. I'm just thinking out loud, but it just came to me as we were talking. But you've worked with kids for many years, and you know what makes them tick. Yeah,
I find, like I said earlier, a lot of times with teenagers, everything's peer driven.
Yeah.
You know, going to the mall with their friends, and even drug use. You know, being influenced by drug use by their peers. So I remember when I worked in New York, we had an underage drinking program, and it was people who were caught with an open bottle on the boardwalk or something like that. And over the process, you see these people come into the program, and they were like 16, 17 years old. But then when they got like 23 and 24, they see the seriousness of it. You know, like they started off with underage drinking and addiction progress. You saw them later on in full-blown treatment. Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. September is always a good kickoff month for the fall, and it's a good time to recognize National Recovery Month. The fundraiser is the 23rd of this month, which, by the way, a late September weekend in Moore County, the weather is generally gorgeous.
Oh.
If we don't have a hurricane.
Yeah. Well, we don't want that.
I just jinxed it, didn't I? Oh, no.
But Run for Recovery is September the 23rd, 8:30 to 12. Registration begins at 7:30 a.m. It's a 5K run. There's a walk. It begins at 8:30, and then there's a team obstacle run that begins at 9 at the National Athletic Village, 201 Air Tool Drive in Southern Pines. And again, all the funds, the proceeds are going to go towards the creation of a community recovery center in Moore County, which is much needed.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know. Dan, we love to have you on. You can come on for any reason that you want. And
thank you, Bill.
It's good to see you, and thank you for coming. And Karen Wicker, wish you the best of luck with your efforts. And
thank you so much.
Just stand on that soapbox and keep chirping.
I
right?
know everybody says get that cape off. You can't save the world, but you know it's what biting that elephant off one bite at a time. And I'm so glad I have these guys here and you and everyone else helping us to support this effort.
Yeah, and Reuben Burney from the Pinehurst Comprehensive Treatment Center. Always thank you for your insight and your perspective. People can go to Facebook and they can see all the things I saw today, and and you're smart to put bullet points out there. People don't read; they will.
Right.
You can capture them with a thought,
Visual,
and that visual on the Vietnam War and the amount of deaths in 2016.
Yeah, that blew my mind too.
Oh my gosh, that just puts everything in perspective.
Yeah.
We wish you guys the best of luck, and hope a lot of people will come out to the Run for Recovery on September 23rd at the National Athletic Village.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, have a great week, everybody. Thank you.
Our house, it has a crowd. There's always something happening, and it's usually quite loud. Our mum, she's so house proud. Nothing ever slows her down, and a mess is not allowed.